Napoleon Bonaparte, a name that reshaped the destiny of Europe. Was he a brilliant strategist or a power-obsessed tyrant who led millions to die? Out of the ashes of the French Revolution rose a man who would conquer kingdoms and crown himself emperor, but his true legacy was forged on the battlefield. December 2nd, 1805. The fields near the small Moravian town of Austerlitz are shrouded in a cold morning mist. Here, one of history's most legendary battles is about to unfold. The world will come to know it as the Battle of Austerlitz, a name that echoes through the annals of military history as a symbol of tactical genius and audacious ambition. This day would be remembered as the Battle of the Three Emperors. On one side stood Napoleon Bonaparte, the young and ambitious emperor of the French, his reputation already formidable. Opposing him were two of Europe's most powerful monarchs, Tsar Alexander I of Russia and Emperor Francis II of Austria. Their combined armies outnumbered the French, and their confidence was high. Yet beneath the surface, uncertainty simmered. The fate of Europe hung in the balance. As dawn broke, over 150,000 soldiers prepared for combat. Napoleon's army, though outnumbered, was a force forged by years of relentless campaigning. The French faced daunting odds, nearly 90,000 Russian and Austrian troops against just 68,000 French. But Napoleon had something his adversaries lacked, a masterful plan. He feigned weakness, luring the Allies into a trap. The Allies, believing the French right flank was vulnerable, committed their forces to a decisive attack. What they didn't realize was that every move had been anticipated by Napoleon, who watched and waited for the perfect moment to strike. With surgical precision, Napoleon unleashed his main assault at the very heart of the Allied line, the Pratzen Heights. His deception had worked flawlessly. The enemy, stretched thin and divided, was unable to respond in time. French columns surged forward, breaking through the center and rolling up the flanks. The battlefield descended into chaos for the Allies, their formations collapsing under the relentless French advance. By the end of the day, Napoleon had achieved a stunning victory, capturing thousands of prisoners and seizing cannons. The Battle of Austerlitz was more than a triumph. It was a masterclass in strategy and deception, earning Napoleon eternal fame as one of history's greatest military commanders. Das Jahr 1812. Europa halt den Atem an, als zwei Giganten der Geschichte auf den Feldern nahe dem russischen Dorf Borodino aufeinandertreffen. Napoleon Bonaparte auf dem Höhepunkt seiner Macht führt die Grande Armee mit über 130.000 Soldaten tief nach Russland. Ihnen gegenüber steht General Mikhail Kutuzov mit rund 120.000 russischen Soldaten, unterstützt von etwa 640 Geschützen. Die Schlacht von Borodino, ausgetragen am 7. September 1812, sollte zur blutigsten Tagesentscheidung der napoleonischen Kriege werden. Schon im Morgengrauen ist die Luft von Spannung und kalter Ehrfurcht. Die russische Armee hat starke Verteidigungsstellungen errichtet, Schanzen, Redouten und die berühmte Großredoute, ein massives Erdwerk, das den französischen Vormarsch stoppen soll. Napoleon setzt auf einen Frontalangriff, Seine Strategie, die russische Armee durch geballte Gewalt zu zerschlagen. Die Franzosen eröffnen das Feuer mit über 500 Kanonen, gefolgt von massiven Infanterie- und Kavallerieangriffen. Die Russen verteidigen sich verbissen, besonders an den Schlüsselpositionen wie der Bagration-Fläche und der großen Redoute, die mehrfach den Besitzer wechseln. Die Schlacht tobt über 12 Stunden ein unvorstellbares Inferno aus Kanonendonner, Bajonettangriffen und Reiterattacken. Die Verluste sind enorm. Schätzungen zufolge sterben oder verwunden sich an diesem Tag über 70.000 Soldaten, etwa 35.000 auf französischer und bis zu 45.000 auf russischer Seite. Ganze Regimenter werden ausgelöscht, die Felder sind übersät mit Gefallenen. Die medizinische Versorgung ist rudimentär, viele Verwundete sterben noch auf dem Schlachtfeld. Am Abend hält die russische Armee immer noch stand, doch General Kutuzov entscheidet sich zum Rückzug, seine Truppen zu retten. Napoleon hat das Schlachtfeld erobert, aber die russische Armee bleibt kampffähig. Die Franzosen sind erschöpft und haben keine entscheidende Niederlage errungen. Kutuzovs Rückzug ist strategisch, will Napoleon weiter ins Landesinnere locken, wo Hunger, Kälte und Partisanen die Grande Armee zermürben sollen. Die Folgen sind dramatisch. Obwohl Napoleon Moskau kurz darauf besetzt, bleibt der russische Widerstand ungebrochen. Die Grande Armee wird im Winter 1812 von Hunger, kalte und ständigen Angriffen dezimiert, nur ein Bruchteil kehrt nach Frankreich zurück. Die Schlacht von Borodino markiert den Wendepunkt des Russlandfeldzugs. Sie seit die Grenzen von Napoleons Macht und leitet den Niedergang seines Imperiums ein. Bis heute gilt Borodino als Symbol für Opferbereitschaft, Zähigkeit und die verheerenden Folgen des Krieges. 1815, Waterloo, the final act. After escaping exile, Napoleon returned for one last gamble, but this time his brilliance wasn't enough. The British under Wellington and the Prussians sealed his fate. His wars caused over 3 million deaths. Europe was left in ruins, and revolution gave way to empire. So was Napoleon a military genius, or the architect of needless suffering? Exiled and alone, Napoleon Bonaparte spent his final years on the remote island of St. Helena, a world away from the thrones and battlefields that once trembled at his name. The man who had crowned himself Emperor of the French, who had redrawn the map of Europe and inspired both fear and admiration across continents, now found himself confined to a windswept rock in the South Atlantic. His days were marked by isolation, his only companions the memories of glory and the weight of defeat. In the quiet of his exile, Napoleon wrote letters, reflected on his past, and watched the horizon, perhaps wondering how history would remember him. He died far from the world he once ruled, his empire reduced to memories and myths. The room where he breathed his last was silent save for the whispers of those who attended him. Yet, even in death, Napoleon's presence lingered, his hat, his sword, and the stories that would be told for generations. The world he left behind was forever changed by his ambition, his reforms, and his wars. The echoes of his footsteps could still be felt in the corridors of power, in the laws he enacted, and in the hearts of those who loved or loathed him. But his battles still echo in the history of empires, shaping the destinies of nations and the course of centuries. The wars he waged redrew borders, toppled monarchies, and inspired revolutions. His military genius became the subject of study in academies around the world, while his failures served as cautionary tales. The Napoleonic Code, his enduring legal legacy, influenced laws far beyond France, laying the groundwork for modern civil societies. Even as Europe rebuilt and reimagined itself, the shadow of Napoleon loomed large, a reminder of how one man's vision could alter the fate of millions. And in the question that haunts us still, how should we remember Napoleon? Was he a liberator who brought progress and order, or a conqueror whose ambition cost countless lives? Statues and monuments stand in his honor, yet so too do the scars of war and the memories of those who suffered. His story is told in classrooms, debated in parliaments, and pondered by scholars. The legacy of Napoleon is not just in the victories he claimed or the lands he conquered, but in the enduring debate over his true nature and the meaning of his reign. Was he a hero or a tyrant? The answer may never be simple. For some, Napoleon remains a symbol of hope, a man who rose from obscurity to challenge the old order and inspire a new age. For others, he's a warning, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the cost of ambition. His legacy endures not just in the pages of history, but in the ongoing conversation about leadership, justice, and the price of greatness. In the end, Napoleon's story is not just about the man himself, but about the world he changed and the questions he left behind.